Hey fellas, today we're looking at classifying triangles. We're looking at putting triangles into 3 different categories. I'm pretty sure you would have heard of all 3 of these before. If you haven't, it's not a big deal. I don't think it's too hard to really remember the 3, but it's just important that we're using the same language. So even if you've done triangles before at your primary school or you think you're pretty comfortable with them, just make sure you're getting the wording right. Let's look at the first type of triangle, and that's this one here, the equilateral triangle. There's a big clue in how to remember what an equilateral triangle is because the word equal is in it. And that's really the most important thing of an equilateral triangle. It's got 3 equal sides. So if we measured all the 3 sides of this, they should come out to being the same length. The other thing that's equal in an equilateral triangle is all the angles. So an angle is where 2 lines meet, and if you look at these 3 angles here, all 3 of those will be exactly the same. And just to give you a little bit of an extra tip, in a triangle, all the angles will always add up to 180 degrees. We'll look at that in a little bit more detail later on though. The second type of triangle though is an isosceles triangle. And in isosceles triangles, you can clearly see here, it's got 2 sides that are the same length and one that's a little bit different. So you can see these 2 sides here are really long. If we measured them with a ruler, though they would both add up to be the exact same thing, whereas this one here is obviously a little bit shorter. In an isosceles triangle as well, you can see the 2 angles down here are exactly the same, this angle and this angle up the top here is obviously slightly different. And again, we'll get into angles later. The third type is probably the hardest to draw. It gets a little bit weird. It's a scalene triangle, and a scalene triangle, if I took my ruler out and measured it, I would find that I've got 3 sides that are completely different lengths. They're sort of odd looking scalene triangles. This one's quite a nice, neat example, but imagine if you like dragged this arm and dragged it down, the starting point here would eventually end up somewhere around here. So you can see that side's longer than that side, which is obviously longer than this side as well. And if you compared the angles in a scalene triangle, you'd find that all 3 angles are different as well. So that's it. That's the 3 types of triangles there are. That's all there is to really remember. Equilateral are all the sides are equal. All the sides are the same length. An isosceles triangle has 2 sides that are equal lengths and 1 that's different. And a scalene triangle has 3 sides that are all different lengths. Hopefully when we get cracking on our stepping stones book for triangles, we can just actually practice drawing them, because that is kind of the hardest bit. Knowing the categories is the easy part. So if you need to pause this, rewind it to really remember, do your absolute best. Have a good weekend, boys.